Welcome aboard episode 6 of Ridin the Bus, the official Iowa Wild podcast presented by Explore Minnesota is on the way. Ben Gislason, voice of the Iowa Wild, head of marketing for the Iowa Wild, Joey Goldstein, BG and JG, the first time coming up with that little fun acronym play there. And it's great to be back. Looking forward to this week's guest, obviously, in Joe Hicketts. A wonderful chat with Joe, which everyone I've ever had with him, even when he's been mad at me about a bad travel day, has been great. But we're here to talk about some other things first. But first and foremost, if you're on YouTube, you can see it. If you're listening on one of the different ways that you can listen to this podcast, you might be able to hear my chin guard on my cage here rubbing up against the headset. I am wearing full hockey gear, literally head to toe, as promised. I've got skates.
There we go. Look at that.
We've got the cup. I got the cup on.
Wow.
I'm full. Like I was. It's funny.
If there was one area like you probably could have skipped on.
No,
but
no. But then your socks wouldn't stay up because you have
that's true.
You have the Velcro.
There's none hanging up. Sometimes there's the garter belts that just have like the hooks.
That's true.
But
no. But oftentimes the cup's connected to that too.
Yeah.
So, but it's funny. I was putting it on, going. You're so used to when you're putting gear on, you're at least going to go skate, and I was kind of like, dang, I'm going to have to just do this podcast and take it all off. I couldn't even go out and skate on the ice right now if I wanted to for 5 minutes if we were doing it during the season. But it's good to be here. I've not been sweating as much as I thought I was going to be sweating down here. It's cooler down here than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, I've been meaning to ask you about that. See, I got down here after you guys did, and the first thing I said to Marquise when I walked in after I asked him how his vacation was it's a little bit cooler in here than it has been the last couple weeks. I don't know if Ben was maybe doing a little fidgeting with the temperatures to make sure he didn't sweat it all out, because that was one of the things we had talked about.
I can neither confirm nor deny that.
So, but credit to you. You lost the Home Run Derby, which we all knew was going to happen.
Pistol Pete let me down.
Yeah, we all knew it was going to happen, and here we are. We went and watched it together.
Yep.
There was a point where I was a little concerned.
Well, especially with the bet you doubled down on.
Yeah.
Which I think you should share.
Yeah, so we basically said when Albert Pujols got out of the first round, I had said, listen, there's no way this guy's going to win. If he does win, I'll do the next 4 episodes in full hockey gear. And sure enough, he was very, very close to at least advancing to the finals. But, Juan Soto pulled it off, got me the win.
That's the first I legitimately didn't even see who won. Someone asked me. I went home. I didn't even look who won
because the final started. And I think I had both guys. I had Rodriguez and Soto, so that's when we kind of called it. That was a nice little.
It's past my bedtime. I didn't go to sleep.
Nice little feeling, and then I went back home and I just watched the rest of it just to see how it. I kind of I wouldn't say I watched it. I just kind of had it on as background noise, but I got to see how that all played out, which the Home Run Derby, awesome event. It's something like I think never gets old, just watching guys hit the ball 480 feet or whatever. I mean, it's pretty cool. They gotta retool that whole format. The bracket style is Julio Rodriguez hit 81 home runs over the course of the night and lost. Like, that shouldn't happen. So they got to get rid of the bracket style. I think they just do 8 guys. They all go up and hit. You take the top 4, advance them, top 2 after that. Those are my thoughts on the Home Run Derby.
Well, and we were saying, too, one thing that would, I think, even more greatly add to the intrigue of the Home Run Derby, which I agree, it really brought back to me. I remember watching Sosa and McGuire. That was the for our generation, maybe for a lot of them, that was like the Home Run Derby, because that whole year everybody was glued to baseball for the Sosa McGuire showdown. But one thing you and I were talking about was sort of how the NFL does it with the Pro Bowl is like they have like this more skills than just hitting home runs, whether it's hitting balls to targets, or the one you brought up was throws to home plate from left field, right field, center field, like, gunning guys down like that. That would be a fun, interesting little nuance to change it up a little bit, and it would get more people involved too, because you only really have the big sluggers that are coming out and swinging the bats, which again, Home Run Derby should stay the Home Run Derby, but it'd be fun to expound on that a little bit, maybe add a little more and get more people included too.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Do something for the pitchers, maybe do some kind of accuracy thing. I don't know. There's more. That's the beauty of Home Run Derbies. It's never going to get old, but they can do a little bit more with their all-star festivities, I think.
Yeah. Good to be back. Good to be heard, good to be seen. Per usual, episode 6. Joe Hicketts on the way. We do have some 10-year tidbits presented by Explore Minnesota to get to, and I read enough reads during the season, and so I thought now would be a great time to see your reading ability, Joey.
Which is,
yes,
I think sometimes it can be hit or miss. But yeah,
pun intended on Home Run Derby. Nice.
Yeah, there you
nice.
go. Yeah.
Nice.
Unintentional. Yeah. But yeah, 10-year tidbits presented by Explore Minnesota. Minnesota is home to one of the most vibrant arts and culture scenes in the country, from culturally curious Spam Museum in the south to a replica Viking ship in the north to everything in between. Be sure to also experience the nationally acclaimed Guthrie Theater, Walker Arts Center, Paisley Park, and so much more. Visit exploreminnesota.com to begin your dream vacation.
Been to all of those. I've not been to the Spam, except the Spam Museum. I can't remember the name of the place that has the Viking ship. Actually, Concordia College, the gear I'm wearing, I believe the Viking ship is located in Moorhead, which is where Concordia College is.
There you go.
There's a fun tidbit, too. Yeah.
And we were just talking when we came on today, too. Marquise was up in northern Minnesota doing some fishing, spending some time out there, a little vacation, kind of some R&R for him, and he mentioned he got his little fishing guide, and sure enough, Explore Minnesota.
Right there.
Boom. Right there in front of him.
Glory's awesome. And so is Explore Minnesota. So thanks for sponsoring the show. Let's get to some tidbits. You've got them.
Yeah, so I think the biggest, well, there's a lot of big news, and the biggest probably being the schedule. But before we kind of get into that and break it down, we did have some more signings for the Wild on the AHL side of things. We got some new faces to the hockey ops staff. So let's quickly dive into the signings, and I'll read off the names. I'll roll it over to you to kind of sort through or mention a few things about the guys that you think stand out maybe the most. Last names, we got Ronning, Kaspic, Balmus, Connolly, and Curry. So guys who have some ECHL experience, guys who are coming fresh out of college. I think it's Conley's coming right out of Nebraska, Omaha. Patrick Curry played at BU for a little bit, but spent some time with Grand Rapids. Balmus spent some time in Worcester, the ECHL side. Kaspic was a Hartford guy.
Springfield.
Springfield.
Yeah, he played in the final. Yeah,
Springfield guy. And then and Ty Ronning, who's got some connections to Minnesota, which you wanted to.
And there's Hartford. And I don't admittedly know as much just innately about Mitchell Balmus. The same for Kevin Conley. Only what I could find when I was writing up the press release, for the announcement a couple weeks back now. Patrick Curry, saw him. He was a depth player for Grand Rapids. Those guys signing two-way AHL deals, so might be similar to a guy like Bryce Gervais from last season, a Chris Bennett from last season. You saw Bryce Misley coming up and down a little bit and contributing, so you might see these guys be more of that type. Now, could see they could come into camp and they could really showcase they deserve to be at the American League level, and all of a sudden here they are as full-time AHLers. That's the beauty of those two-way deals, is those guys have to prove that they belong to be, or the same goes for the NHL two-way deals too. It works the same way.
I think there were a couple guys last year who made that case as well.
Absolutely. Bryce Gervais was here all year pretty much.
Nate Sucis is another guy like that who
correct.
Came in and proved that, nope, this is where I deserve to be, and they were kind of staples in the lineup majority of the year.
And for the other two, Tanner Kaspic, center iceman, which the one thing I think about, and it's been interesting now to see all the center signings. Talk about Nick Butam. We'll talk about Nick Butam with Joe Hicketts. They were teammates with the World Junior together for Team Canada, but that was one thing that early on last year when Connor Dewar proved he was going to be more Minnesota than he was Iowa, all of a sudden there was a problem with center iceman. Bryce Gervais was playing center all year long. He was taking, by the end of the year, important D-zone faceoffs, and I remember about midway through the season, I sat down with him and said, he's mainly a wing, but tell me about some other times you had to play center, and he goes, I've never played center before. It's my first year doing it, so, he took a big role for the team that he didn't expect to maybe have, and he was a good centerman for them, but they didn't have centers, and for me, goaltending, equate that to pitching in baseball, you have to have that to win. That's the number one most important position. But even though I'm a defenseman, defensemen have pairings. There's two defensemen. I look at the singular most important player position, in my opinion, it's centers. And it's why you typically see centers get drafted earlier in those, those top 4 or 5 picks. You see a lot of centers coming out of there because, yes, getting that that perennial 50-goal scorer can really help too, but someone who can create, who can score, who can also solidify your defensive zone, win face-offs. I mean, they do so much, centers do, and so it's no surprise to me to see that Mike Murray and Bill Guerin in tandem working, and Chris O'Hearn, kind of the trio that are working to put this group together, that centers have become big for this club, because that was one thing last year I think that hurt. There were some nights, I think there was a trip to Winnipeg when COVID hit this team and Minnesota, where I think they had one natural center in the lineup. I think it was Dominic Turgeon was the one natural center they had in the game, because the depth chart, it just wasn't there. Because, again, Connor Dewar was, I think, supposed to probably be here at the beginning of the year more than he was, and all of a sudden he was gone, and then everything gets thrown into disarray from a center ice perspective. So they're loading up. That doesn't surprise me. Ty Ronning, not a center. He's the guy I know the most about. I had a really good year in Hartford. I think he was just shy of 40 points. So another guy, you think about Stephen Fogarty, who was north of 40 points. So some players that have come in now that can prove they can score at the American League level. Nick Patan had a good American League season last year. But Ronning, the son of Cliff Ronning, who, if any Minnesota fans are tuning in here like myself was, that 2003 Western Conference Finals run that Minnesota made, which was just so magical. He was a massive part of that team, and I know from people that I know that have played on that team, friends that I have that now work in hockey as coaches that were players on that team, they loved Cliff Ronning as a human, as a person, as a leader in the room. He was one of the older guys on that team at the time. I remember he broke so many sticks in the blue line, because I think he used a really whippy shaft, and he had a great shot, but especially at that time, as that was really 03, composite sticks were just kind of coming in, so the guys were just snapping him left and right, and he used a really whippy stick and took a lot of one-timers. And I remember there was a few times, I think even in the playoffs, where he got loaded up for a great one-timer opportunity, stick snaps, and then it's a 2-on-1 the other way. He's a forward playing a 2-on-1 rush.
Yeah,
like, you're just like, oh my gosh.
That's a nightmare scenario if you're a coach. That's like the last thing you want to see.
And what do you do?
Back.
You're not going to tell him to not take one-timers, because most of the time he gets them off, they're creating great scoring chances, or he's scoring himself. But no, I remember Cliff Ronning really, really well, wore number 77, and I believe Ty Ronning wore 7 at Hartford, so I'll be curious with the departure of Kevin Churchman. Does potentially Ty Ronning get to wear 7 here, which I think was Cliff's number before he got to Minnesota. He wore 77, I believe, because 7 was taken at the time he came over. Maybe in a trade, I'm not totally sure on that, but pretty cool to see that, and hopefully Ty is much like his father in the room, because that's, again, when you get guys that can create on the ice but also can create that great culture in the room. We've talked about it at length, but that's what Bill Guerin's trying to do. I know it's what Mike Murray's trying to do here down in Des Moines as well. Yeah,
and you talked about center depth being so important, and we've heard Tim talk about that in depth as well when we've had VIP chats or chats with season ticket holders, kind of your coach's corner, where he's talked about that's how he structures his team, is all around center depth. And he admitted those times where you talked about last year, we didn't have centers, it hurt. And because that's his whole offense kind of funnels through that, and his whole system funnels through that. So it is nice to see that depth. Curious to see what happens with all these signings and who's going to get what number. I think that's something that probably, I would assume maybe this week. I know Shaky's, who just got married. Congratulations.
Yeah,
to
no
Shaky.
Kidding. All right.
That's
Richard
another
Shaky
10-year
Krause.
tidbit.
Yep.
Shaky got married. He's coming back this week from his honeymoon. I believe he's going to start reaching out to some of these new guys, probably getting some information from them, including probably what numbers they're going to wear. But we do have some new faces as well on the hockey operations side.
Well, and another guy who just got married in our new strength and conditioning coach, Andrew Kaser. I think it might have been the same weekend as Shaky. So a couple pairs of congratulations to people joining the marriage club. It's a great club to be in. So congratulations to Andrew as well and his wife, and also Richard. I don't call him that very often, Shaky. But I heard Shaky was doing the limbo down in the Bahamas on his honeymoon, so that's great. He's getting to have some fun. When guys like him don't get away very often, because they are the hardest working people in hockey, in my opinion. So a huge shout out to those guys. But yes, Andrew Kaser announced this week as the new strength and conditioning coach, with of course Matt Harder moving up to Minnesota. Also, the Iowa Wild announcing new head athletic trainer in Dan Barker. Dan comes from Wheeling, where Tim Army's son Derek coaches, and it's funny, he was Dan. My first opportunity meeting Dan was up at development camp a couple of weeks back now, and I said, so early on now, your early dealings with Tim, how similar, how different. He goes, spitting image, just the exact same. I was just like, he's like, it was eerie right away watching him. I'm like, that's so great. And nice for Dan too, because I can speak on this. Anybody that works in a hockey operations staff can speak on this. You do have to learn how to work with coaches, and you learn what they like, you learn what they don't like, and so he might have a little bit of a leg up right away, because I'm sure he's had a few experiences with Derek where he's realized Derek doesn't like this. I'm sure he can maybe either learning from Derek on that, from experience, or just even ask Derek, like, hey, what's Tim going to think of this? And so both Dan and Andrew, we're excited to have them. Andrew comes from actually the KHL in Russia. So I'd love to get some stories from him. And actually, before he was in the KHL, he was in China in, I'm going to get this wrong, the Zhendaya Hockey League, Women's Professional Hockey League over in Asia. So this is a guy who's seen the world through hockey, which to me is always fascinating, and to see how different, not only different organizations do things, but how do different countries and leagues do things like that. So he's not come in yet. He was on his honeymoon during development camp, so we didn't see him. But always good to get new blood. Nice for me to not be the rookie anymore, too.
Yeah.
I get the greenhorn status, which Shaky always likes to still call me every once in a while, the greenhorn. He's a big deadliest catch guy. That was a fun first-year nickname for me. But great to have some new people involved, and they'll bring some fresh perspectives as not only the team taking shape on the ice, but the team off the ice and the support staff taking shape, too.
Yeah, I would love to bring him on and chat about, the KHL and see what that was all like. We hear stories, right? If you listen to Spittin' Chicklets, they go in depth about some of the crazy stories. So I'm sure he's got a lot, but just from his point of view, kind of the way he's dealt with things, how things differ from the way they do over here in the American League and the National League. So I think that'd be now that he's back from his honeymoon, maybe somebody we get on here in the next couple weeks.
I don't think Andrew was probably administering much of the Russian gas the Spittin' Chicklets guys talk about, especially now. You definitely won't be able to bring that over and use that in the American League. But, agreed. Would be really fun to check in with him. I know I'll do it off podcast just because and I've told him this. I said I can't wait to sit down and talk to you and learn more about the experiences you had. And Matt Harder has just spoken glowingly about him and said he's really eager to get here. So that's, it's a group that's excited to be here. That's for sure.
That's awesome. And then, so the last 10-year tidbit, schedule's out. As of last week, the schedule is out. Long awaited. I know I've been waiting a long time for it to come out. I know everybody upstairs in the office has just been waiting because there's only so much you can do. There's only so much planning you can do before you actually get the dates. But now we've got the dates. The schedule's out. Instant reaction. What are your thoughts?
Well, my first reaction right away was our Pacific swing is wonderful. It's nice to get San Diego in there. We got a full 2 days off in San Diego, so I mean, part of me looks at that and goes, "This is going to be just a blast." We get Colorado in there. If anybody tuned into the broadcast last year, I think I just went on and on about Colorado and the way that their game ops run things. The smaller building, it's loud, it's crazy in there. So excited to go back and just going to Colorado. I enjoy going to Colorado. I enjoy going to Denver. So getting to go there will be great. The one I probably skipped over that I shouldn't have skipped over is Palm Springs. Brand new team, brand new building. I believe Acrisure Arena is the name of their arena. From what I've been told, they're making just a junior version of Seattle's barn. So it's going to be state of the art. It was Climate Pledge Arena. Am I getting that right? With Seattle? Here we go. Good job, Ben. So looking forward to seeing that building, to seeing Palm Springs, getting out into the desert a little bit. Enjoyed going to Tucson last year, but it'll be nice to have a desert portion of the Pacific trip, and then the more California trip. It's nice to see places.
It's just nice to see. I mean, they're a brand new team. This is the first year they're going to be around, so to be lucky enough to have them on our schedule as an out-of-division opponent, I think is a cool opportunity for fans, too, to see just new jerseys, new prospects coming in. That's going to be an exciting piece for sure.
Didn't see a ton of 3-3s on there. I saw there's one nasty one in November, I think, where we play it like – I don't play on the team. They play it like 3 and Sunday in Chicago after going through, I believe it's –
Grand Rapids, maybe?
Yeah, maybe it's Grand Rapids, Milwaukee. It's something where you play late and then you have 5 hours to go to Chicago. I mean, it's like, what are we going to – those are the days that I have a hard enough time getting ready for the broadcast. I'm like, how do these players do it? But other than that, that's the one that stood out. A lot of home and homes. Those will be tough, but they're tough for both teams.
Yeah.
It's not like a 3-3 where Chicago's sitting there waiting for you in their own beds. Home and home with Chicago, which I think there's at least one of those. You play here, and then they're traveling on this, almost the same time you are. Now we have to get checked into a hotel, but and there's a couple times where we go somewhere and then we come back. So I think and the overall verbiage that I heard from Mike Murray was he was happy with it. I think Todd Fredrickson was happy with it. I think from a promotional standpoint, your group is happy with it. And on that note, the one thing that I'm really excited about is having a school day game again, because those not only just people in seats, with the number of people that come to those games are fantastic.
Loudest game of the year.
It is. I was joking when I went on a show with Andy Hall on Laser 103.3 last week. I said I think I almost need to put in earplugs under my headsets because it's shrill and it's loud, and I know the players as much as right away. I think they're kind of like a little bit like, whoa. I think eventually they're like, this is really fun. You get acclimated to the constant shrill drone, but it's just an atmosphere unlike any other. I know a lot of teams do it, but it's great for us to get it back here in Des Moines, because I know to have the school buses out lined up at the north parking lot here, it's a sea of yellow and it's a sea of kids inside Wells Fargo Arena, which is just outstanding.
Yeah, the schedules. It's always an exciting day when it comes out. There's certainly certain things that I look for immediately. I mean, I'm not looking as much for 3-3s. I think the biggest thing I'm looking for when the schedule comes out is when are some of those gaps, especially for someone who's not from Des Moines. Like, I look for the gaps around holidays and things like that. When may I be able to go back and see family, things of that nature. Obviously, for me, on a personal note, I circled immediately opening weekend against San Jose, so I'm very much looking forward to that series, getting to see some familiar faces coming in here as visitors, but also I want to beat them by 50 both nights, so certainly going to push for that. But like you talked about the promotional side of things, I think hopefully in the next couple of weeks we'll be able to roll out a promo schedule. We've got some fun things in the works that I'm excited to be able to share with everybody. Things are fairly spread out. For the most part, very, very heavy at home in December and January, which will be nice because that's kind of the time when, Iowa and Iowa State have finished up playing football and high school football has come to a close. So it's really, Iowa Wild Hockey is your premier pro sports team here in Des Moines. So that's kind of the time where we normally ramp up anyways. Hopefully that gives us some good momentum too on the ice. You get some good crowds here. The players feed off it. You get some wins to kind of carry you through that second half of the season and make a push for playoffs.
I skipped San Jose because I figured you'd bring them up. We go there too. New building as well.
Yep, they're also
San
in a new
Jose.
building.
So a couple of new buildings that we're getting to see this year. I'll definitely be picking your brain when we're in San Jose for where I need to be eating.
There's a couple good spots for sure.
I
know. I'm heading out there in September to officiate a wedding, and I've already got places circled on my list of places I got to hit in between there. So
Jack of all trades, master of none. Joey Goldstein.
I can do it all, just not everything well. Right?
On to Joe Hicketts,
Yeah.
who we need to get to him as quickly as possible because we knew it'd be a good episode, and it was. He is one of the more fascinating people I think you can come across. We were joking when we stopped recording with him. I think he had to go to we could have made him late for his workout, I think, because we kind of wrapped it up, and then he had one more fishing story to tell, and then we got into talking about his cowboy kind of persona that he wants to put out, and we talked about the Canadian tuxedo, which has really taken on a life of its own within the room, but also within our fan base. And you guys did such a tremendous job of capitalizing on that from a marketing standpoint. But in a sentence or two, how would you encapsulate this interview with Joe Hicketts?
I mean, it's as entertaining as we expected him to be. Keep an eye out. At one point, he does flip his teeth out, so that's something everybody should be keeping an eye out for. Just hearing some of the stories. Guy loves to fish. Obviously he's won a Calder Cup, so hearing about that and kind of his time, how he spent that day with the Cup, is all interesting. And this guy also won a gold medal at the World Juniors with a team that was just loaded with talent. And got to play with Connor McDavid, which is
the thing that he talked about too that I love was Connor McDavid. He said at the time that it wasn't him.
Second line center. He said
second line to who?
Who did he say? Was it
now
Bataan?
now member of the Minnesota Wild organization.
That's right.
So
Bataan
I mean,
was the first line
not
guy.
that we're gonna at this point compare Nick Bataan to who Connor McDavid is, but at the time, I mean, Nick Batan's coming in here with a great pedigree, and we've talked about him, and Joe agreed with everything and said that he's excited that he's a part of the organization now too. So that's plenty from us. Let's get to the horse's mouth himself in the one, the only Iowa Wild defenseman, Joe Hicketts.
It's period 2 of Ridin the Bus, the official Iowa Wild podcast presented by Explorer Minnesota. A hockey equipment-clad Ben Gislason, joined by Joey Goldstein, and more importantly, joined by Iowa Wild defenseman Joe Hicketts. We've been looking forward to this one all week. Joe's a guy who brings a lot on the ice, but certainly brings a lot off of the ice too, including one hell of a Canadian tuxedo outfit. Joe, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to do this. I know you guys just started, but hopefully we can, entertain some people.
Well, you certainly do plenty of that, Joe. First off, let's talk about what we always talk about with our guests. And again, the whole idea is we want to put people on the bus with players, with executives, with whoever it is we have on. And so we like to ask as an opening question, is there one singular bus story that stands out in the mind of Joe Hicketts? Everybody has them where things have gone wrong or maybe things have gone right. But when you think about your time on the bus, is there one story that pops out that is more hilarious than the next?
Yeah, I think so. A lot of them have to do with stuff going wrong because you never remember the smooth trips. And I think you know that for sure. But definitely the best bus story is probably our first trip to Winnipeg last year. We couldn't get flights. So Ben said he couldn't get flights. So we ended up busing to Winnipeg, and we went to Fargo the first day. And then Minnesota had a bunch of COVID and they were testing in the morning, but we couldn't go across the border until Minnesota had all their tests back. So we went to this mall in Fargo. I think there's about 12 stores in there and maybe one coffee shop. And we're all in our Iowa tracksuits after a practice in the middle of nowhere, waiting to go to Winnipeg. And luckily, we had 2 guys get called up, because if no one got called up, I would have been furious. But 2 guys got called up, which kind of made the trip worth it for those guys. And to see those guys go up was cool. And but yeah, that 12-hour bus ride split up in Fargo at the mall was something I won't forget anytime soon.
And I rode in the jump seat all the way up. I was sitting right next to Bussy all the way up. That was a
very memorable
You were probably
trip.
working, yeah. You were probably working, trying to get flights arranged and hotels booked and everything. So.
Yeah, I won't forget that. Actually, it's funny with all the things that have happened already in my young career as a team services man that I kind of forgot about that one a little bit. But yeah, we were just sort of milling around outside of the mall there in Fargo for, was it probably 2 hours?
It was like 2 hours, 2.5 hours. Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, like I've had buses break down in the middle of intersections and that stuff just kind of goes by. But when you get held up at a mall in a small town for something as crazy as that, and I mean, the last 2 years have been crazy, but I think that was just icing on the cake at that point.
I got a question to get us off of stories from the bus and just more into you, Joe. Do you still have that GR cutout of yourself from when you played in Grand Rapids? I know that was a staple of you and Adam Beckman's apartment last year. Is that around anywhere?
Yeah, I do have it. It's actually in this office I'm in, but I don't want to grab it. It's behind me somewhere. I do have it though. And that actually ended up back in Des Moines on the bus too. Someone thought it'd be funny to put that on the bus. Well, someone hung it in my stall in Grand Rapids one of the times we were there. And then someone threw it on the bus. So when we got back, I had it. And it's actually kind of cool. So I kept it. Brought it back home, but yeah, I have it here still.
Your time in Grand Rapids was obviously one that has turned you into the player, the person that you are now. But going back even further than that, the one thing that stands out about Joe Hicketts to me is you're someone that in a lot of ways has defied some odds. And I know you probably had to talk at length about being an undersized defenseman, but an undrafted player that has played National Hockey League games, that has been a superb American Hockey League defenseman now over the course of your career. That includes time here in Iowa last season. But when you think about what you've done in your career, what are the things maybe you're proudest of, and how do you think you've gotten to where you've gotten to? Because we do have young players listening to this podcast that are in similar situations, might be coming in somewhere thinking, well, I'm not this guy, or I'm not this guy, I'm not drafted in the USHL, I'm not drafted in the NHL, what have you. When you think about who you are as a player, Joe, what stands out to you?
Well, I think, going through that, the hardship of, I got hurt my draft year when I was in the Western League in Victoria, not getting drafted. That it's definitely, it knocks you down a couple levels. And, was fortunate enough to go to, Detroit's camp, obviously Grand Rapids affiliate, the Red Wings, and was able to earn a contract within the first 3 months being there. So I think that's got to be one of my proudest memories. Working through, that 7-8 month period of getting, being out for 3 months, missing half a season, to earning an NHL contract. And if I remember correctly, I think like between all the drafted guys, I think I was maybe like the 15th guy signed that year from that draft class, and I wasn't even drafted. So that's something that, I hung my hat on a long time, and obviously springboarded me towards, these other opportunities. Got to play 2 World Juniors for Team Canada, and without signing and having the camps I did in Detroit, I don't know if that opportunity presents itself. So there's that memory. Obviously winning a Calder Cup, that's something you can't beat. It's the top prize of the American Hockey League, and really springboarded my career, as I started pro. Sometimes I wish it didn't happen my first year, because you think it's going to happen every year now, but no, it's been really exciting. And then making the move to Iowa last season, and Minnesota, that's the first really team change I've had in 10 years. Stayed with the same junior team, and then you grow up. So like between the junior team and then moving with your first contract, you get so comfortable with that situation in Detroit. So being able to move and kind of adapt to new city, new surroundings, new teammates, new personnel, new management. Proud of myself for doing that too. And it's been a really good fit. And I love the organization that Minnesota has, and the city of Des Moines as a whole.
So I want to get to World Juniors. I want to get to the Calder Cup. But we're talking about being, an undersized defenseman, but you play like you're 6'5". Was that always part of your game, or was that something you kind of had to mold once you made that jump from junior to pro hockey?
No, I think it came with me to junior. I grew early. I think I was one of the bigger kids in, bantam and midget, and was able to use my size and play physical. And then I think I learned how to hit and how to use my body at that age. And that kind of allowed me to, when guys started catching up and getting bigger than me in juniors, and especially in juniors, because that's the first real taste of playing with men you have. You're a 16-year-old playing against 19, 20-year-olds. So knowing how to use my body in that situation, I think really helped into juniors. And then here's one of those things, I've always liked the physical part of the game. I think I'm kind of like, that bulldog in the corner, trying to get the puck and trying to win those battles, and just something I took into pro.
You talk about the corners, Joe, but the one thing I'd heard about you before I'd even really watched you play, checking in with what was when you were still with Grand Rapids with Bob Kaser, the voice, the longtime legendary voice of the Grand Rapids Griffins. He brought this up the first time I met him. I was just talking about your team. I wasn't even working for the Wild yet. I was filling in on just a relief basis while I was still working in Des Moines in another organization. And he said, Joe Hicketts, watch out for him at open ice. And lo and behold, that game, I forget who you hit, but you blew somebody up at center ice. And I've seen it time and time and time again from you. As much as you do have that bulldog mentality, when it comes to open ice hitting, there's tactic to it as well. There's picking your spots. There's knowing when a guy's got his head down. And if you've watched Joe Hicketts play enough, you've seen Joe Hicketts throw that hit any open ice hits that stand out to you more than others in your long career where you went, I really caught this guy and I really hit him hard, that maybe is your favorite open ice hit that you've thrown?
I don't know if there's a favorite. I think I had one this season, and I talked to you in the intermission, I think, about it, but I forget. I honestly, I can tell you who it was with and who was it against and what time of the year it was. It's something that just kind of happens fluidly throughout the game, I think. It's not something you go searching for, but when it does present itself, you definitely got to get your lick in. And yeah, finding someone with their head down is the key. But knowing when they're going to have their head down, I think is more important. When they're getting passes, when they're making passes, if you can get them within that split second of them receiving it or giving it, you have a chance to really make good contact and send them flying. So that's kind of what I look for. But to say do I remember one? I don't know if I know one off the top of my head.
It can go both ways, though, too, where a guy finds you're coming at the last second and then all of a sudden you're flat on your back. Do you have any memories of that happening where all of a sudden you get stood up even though you're trying to stand up someone at neutral?
I mean, it's funny you think of those ones and you remember those a lot more. Again, like, don't really remember who it is, but you do remember you're going in to hit someone and they catch you, and either you both fall down or you knock them off, but you fall down too. Those ones hurt too. Those ones really hurt because they're ready for it. And that's like when two trucks collide. So those are definitely my least favorite ones. But as a D-man, it's the same thing with me. Like if someone's coming to hit me and I don't know they're coming, it's easier to knock me off the puck. But if I know they're coming, especially down on the wall, I can, use the glass, use the boards to kind of absorb that contact and then throw it back the other way. So yeah, it does go both ways, and they hurt both ways.
All right, so now going back to World Juniors, like you said, you got to play twice. One of those times you won a gold medal, and that team was just stacked with talent. Darnell Nurse, Shea Theodore, Braden Point, Max Domi, Fabry Duclair, and then of course Connor McDavid. So, as there, best player in the world right now, what was it like getting to play with him at such a young age? Was it immediate where you knew this guy is just lights out, so much better than everybody else? I mean, what were your thoughts on playing with someone with that kind of talent?
The special thing with that team is everyone kind of had that. Like I think Connor was our second line center. Like we knew he was good. Like we had heard all that, but we had Nick Patan, who just recently signed with the organization. Him, Max Stoney, and Sam Reinhart were first line. So you knew Connor was going to be something special, and obviously he was at that point, and he continues to prove that every day and every season. But to play with guys like that was amazing to see what they did on a day-to-day basis for that 3-week period. Whether it was those guys, whether it was Braden Point, who I grew up playing with spring hockey. He's from Calgary, so know him quite a bit, know him well. Darnell Nurse, Shea Theodore, all these guys, Josh Morrissey, Winnipeg, all these guys, they brought this different element, and when we put it together, it created this team that nothing could really go wrong. I think that tournament, that first one, I think we were tied for like 8 minutes, 7.5 minutes total. We were never trailing a game. I think we scored in the first 3 minutes of most games. So something like that is really special. And you see guys along the way, and you just kind of reminisce about that. And going to get to see Nick Patan for training camp, and who knows where it goes from there. But it was definitely a special team.
So speaking of Nick Patan, what can Wild fans expect from him being a new face to the organization? What should they look out for this year?
Well, he's a heck of a hockey player. He's got great vision. He's got great shot, and he's just maybe not a big center, but he's maybe a smaller center, mid-sized center. But the amount of skill he has and what he can do with the puck is, it's rarely seen. I think it threw me aback getting to play with him, even playing against him. He was in Portland in the Western League, so I played against him, quite a bit. And the stuff he can do with the puck is magical almost. And He's an exciting player to watch. He creates a lot of opportunities. He's very responsible. I think he plays a penalty kill, plays power play. So it's going to be a fun dynamic for, the Wild, whatever Wild he's with.
Sure. Now, moving forward a little bit, you talked about the Calder Cup, which stings a little bit for me because I was working in San Jose when you beat us in the Western Conference Finals. That series, though, was loaded with future NHL stars. On the San Jose side, Timo Meier, Barclay Goodrow, Jake Middleton, Kevin LeBanc. You guys had Tyler Bertuzzi, Thomas Nosek. So, and what I remember that series was, it was nasty. It was very physical. What do you remember most from that Western Conference Finals series?
It was nasty. Both teams wanted that so bad. And I remember, we started there. It was a 2-3-2. And so we start there. And I think the first game, it was like 1-0. And we're like, oh, we're in for a series here. We're like, there's going to be no goals scored. And it was just a carryover of the regular season. We went down there, and I think one of the games was 0-0 shootout. So it was a 1-0 shootout win for someone. And we were like, oh, I guess the whole series is going to be 1-0, 2-1 game. So we're going to have to lock it down. But and it was one of those things. I remember taping like two new sticks up every game because you knew you were going to cross check someone and break a stick. And that's kind of the magic of playoffs, is you can get away with that. Especially at that point in a conference championship or conference final, you can get away with a little bit more stick work. And, it was exciting. I'm happy we won in 5 games because that's another travel story. If we lost game 5 in Grand Rapids, when we went back to San Jose, they couldn't get enough flights for the whole team out there. So we were going to have 2 groups of guys. Group 1 was going to have to bus to Chicago. Group 2 was going to have to bus to Detroit. We heard about this after. So it was kind of, thankful we didn't have to. But so the one group was going to Chicago. They were flying to like Minneapolis, down to Vegas, and over to Oakland, and then busing from Oakland. And then group 2 was going Detroit to Chicago they were flying to like Sacramento from Chicago. And they were busing. So if we lost that game, we would have been so mad. I don't think we would have won the series if we had to go back to San Jose. It was that tough, and the travel was that tough. So, but yeah, it was that was one of the funner series I've ever played in.
Yeah, I just remember we had guys, we were battling injuries, but we had guys who were normally super composed who would lose their composure because Tyler Bertuzzi was all up in their grill. It was just, that whole series was just nonstop, just physicality and nastiness. There was one point. It was during one of the intermissions, and I don't know if you guys ever heard the story, if there was any talk about it when people came back onto the ice. I forget which game it was. Zamboni's going around in between intermissions, stops at center ice. The Zamboni driver gets off and proposes to his girlfriend at center ice.
What?
But leaves the Zamboni running, so the hot water's just run at center ice, just running, putting nice divots in center ice. Did that ever get back to you guys? I don't remember. Was there any talk we had to maybe have to delay the start of a period or something like that?
Well, I can guarantee that happened in Grand Rapids, because not knocking Grand Rapids Zamboni, because I knew them. I talked to them before every game, but that's just something that happens there. I feel, playing there for 5 years, but I don't know if I've ever heard that. I feel like there was a delay at some point that series, but I didn't know it was that.
Yeah, his girlfriend at the time was riding the Zamboni, just I guess just caught up in everything that was happening, just forgot to turn the water off. I just remember that I couldn't believe what I was seeing, what I was witnessing at center ice. My last one, so you guys win the Calder Cup. What did you? You guys get your day with the cup. How did you spend your day with the Calder Cup? What'd you do?
So I was actually kind of fortunate. It's not like the NHL. It's not like the Stanley Cup where they have a guy travel around with it. It's strictly throw it in the box and FedEx will deliver it.
Yeah.
And it was supposed to go to Dan Cleary, who was on the team, and he had his hockey school go to Newfoundland. But it wasn't going to get there in time to come back out here and stuff. So it actually went from Dylan Malcroft to Winnipeg to me about a day and a half early. So I actually had, an extra day and a half with it, which was cool. So the first day I didn't even realize I was going to get it. So it was just kind of showed up. So it was just kind of touring around and showing friends and family. But, the day I had planned, took it to the city park downtown, and they had a lot of kids camps going on, and we had set it up where they were going to have a street hockey game go on. So we brought it down there for an hour and a half or whatever, walked around with it, showed the kids and everything, and took pictures and did some autographs, and then brought it back to my family's house, and we did just an outdoor barbecue with friends and family. We probably had 50, 60, 70 people here, and just had fun telling stories, thanking people. I wanted to invite people that not only helped me get there, but were a big part of me getting to the professional level and helping me win that. I think that was important that they got to share that with me as much as I got to share that with them. So a lot of people like that, grandparents, aunts, uncles, and then obviously old coaches who I thought had the biggest impact on me turning pro. And then just had fun with the buddies into the wee hours. It's not often that you get to win a Calder Cup or win a major trophy like that at any point in your life. So definitely did that, and then it was on its way at about 8 a.m. the next morning. So it happens quick, but I was thankful that I got to do it.
I figured you'd take it out in the fishing boat with you, but you didn't do that? Didn't have time, I suppose.
Well, it was at the end of July, so it was too hot to go fishing. Fish don't bite out here. And they're very temperamental.
So I wanted to transition and segue there. That's my clunky transition there as I threw the fishing in. I know you fish a lot. One of my favorite memories on the bus with you this year, Joe, you and I were locked in a great cribbage battle. And I think I just said, Joe, tell me a fishing story. And he told me a great fishing story. So now that we're back on the bus, the proverbial bus here on the podcast, tell me a fishing story.
Well, it's probably going to be a different one, but that's
good.
okay.
I hope so. I'd like to hear something.
Yeah.
More.
I don't know. I was telling this one the other day to some people, but it might be the same one. I don't know. It was back when I was in Victoria. It might have been after that, going back there. I don't know. Anyways, we're going out, ocean fishing, trying to catch some salmon. So we drop crab traps on the way out. Just, if you don't catch a fish and you get skunked, it's always that last little glimmer of hope. Hand bombing some 4 crab traps up and, hoping you get something. But it's a foggy morning and nothing's really, it's dense. You can't really see more than 200-300 feet in front of you. And we're going out. You got to go around this point. There's this place called Race Rocks where it's probably half a mile out into the ocean. There's just like this rock island that you have to go through, and it's so foggy you can't see. So we're going out there and we're using the boat's GPS. It's got like GPS and sonar and all that stuff on it, obviously in the ocean. So we're going out and kind of just following this pink line that we'd gone out before, just trying not to run into the rocks. And you can't see the lighthouse, but you can hear it kind of going off every so often. So it's kind of sketchy. And we make it through and we're like, maybe it's going to open up. The sun's starting to come out. Maybe the fog's going to kind of dissipate. But we get out, nothing's really going on, but the fishing was fantastic. Like maybe one of the best fishing days we've ever had out there. We're catching, 20, 25 pound salmon, every 10, 15 minutes. Just having a great time telling stories. There's 3 of us on the boat. But then you start hearing like this horn go off and we're like, what's going on? And it's foggy still, right? So you can't see anything. Well, then you start feeling waves and the horns get louder and louder and louder. And then you can start hearing this boat, and it's an ocean liner. And like, we don't really know we know where we are. We got a GPS and everything, but you can't really see anything. You can't see the shore. So we might have been going in circles if it wasn't for the GPS, but this ship must have got 300 feet away from us. And it's like, holy, and then you start feeling the waves after, and it's like, this, like, you can't really screw around on the ocean. Like, it's going to eat you up here. So we're like, fishing's too good. We can't go back yet. So we do a couple more passes. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it would look like, it was like out of a movie. This sailboat, obviously, and those sailboats don't usually have, the radar and everything that, other boats have. This sailboat comes flying out of the fog. I'm talking 100 feet away from us. And like, they don't really have that great steering capability, and we're just trolling around, so we can't really get out of the way either. So we're just hoping that they see us because we're not moving that fast in the tide and everything. Thankfully, nothing happened, but just a good story to have, and it was made better by the fact that nothing happened and we were catching lots of fish. And then it did happen to clear off the rest of the day, and we got back, and I think we kept maybe 3 or 4 fish, you know, in the legal limits, and then went back, got some crab, and had a nice little cookout that night. But always something I'll remember fishing Victoria is that foggy day and using GPS to kind of get around.
Well, and I can't even imagine the size. I mean, looking at those ships from a long ways away, they look big. To be with that close to one, it had to completely take up the horizon from where you were sitting at, from what you could see of it at least.
Well, it would have if we could have saw it, but
So you never,
that's how
you never saw it. You just heard it and you felt the waves.
Yeah, you just heard
Wow,
it.
that's even scarier because you're like, where is it?
That was the worrisome. But we knew we were close enough. Like we knew we weren't out in the shipping lanes, but like you don't know where it is. I mean, if we can't see, they probably can't see either. So it was just they were probably going off their GPS and plot charts as much as we were.
Yeah, I like the lakes in Minnesota after that story. Not that I wouldn't go ocean fishing, but that certainly if there's fog now, I may retract my thoughts about it. After that one. What's I'm curious, Joe, because you're a tremendous storyteller, and all great storytellers, they exaggerate when they tell a story. I do the same thing. What's the most you've ever exaggerated a fish size in a story?
I don't know if it's exaggerated, but I'll tell people like I caught a 29-pounder, but I really just netted it. I mean, it's the same thing. I was worse. That brought in the boat. I know that's worse, but no, I don't know. You tell people about fishing stories, and I don't know. Like, I honestly don't know if I exaggerate that much in fishing stories because you want to have some reputability, like. When you're saying you caught a 25-pound salmon, it was 12. Next time you say that, they're gonna be like, "Oh, it was nothing." Like you need some evidence here to back it up. So I like having evidence when I tell fishing stories.
That's legit. I think that's fair.
That makes sense. You got to be able to prove it.
Yeah. So another story we wanted to get out of you because I actually don't know this one. And for anybody just tuning in on YouTube watching right now, they might be surprised when I'm sure you'll do your little trick for us. But you're missing your front teeth. And I've heard through, again, some GR connections that your mom doesn't like when you take them off on camera, but we're going to ask you to take them off on camera for us. I'd love for you to show our fans that are watching on YouTube if they haven't seen it yet. And also, I don't know this. How did you lose them?
That one?
Yeah, that one.
Flipper. There it goes.
Yeah. There it goes in and out. It actually fits well. My neighbor does it back home. So if I lose them or they get broken, it's a very easy fix. I lost them when I was 18, I think 18. It was this is a story I should exaggerate, but I'll actually tell you the true one because I'm a man of my word here. We were in Prince George, BC of all places, like the place you do not want to go. It's cold there. It's miserable. There's nothing happening. It's dark all the time during the season. It happened at a morning skate. So the 16-year-old comes down, Jared Dimitru. He comes down and we're just doing like 2-on-1s in the morning skate and kind of not lackadaisical, but my stick's kind of like in his shooting lane. And he goes to shoot and the puck hits my stick and just like rifles right up into my teeth. And I like close my eyes and I open it and my visor's just full of blood. And then I'm like, oh no, what's going to happen? So I'm like, well, my teeth's still there. So I start like feeling it with my tongue. Well, my teeth didn't really shatter. It's not like one of those ones where the teeth are on the ice. The puck came out, cut my bottom and top lips, but they pushed my 3 teeth backwards. So like they're just kind of like dangling there. So I can like play with them with my tongue. I can push them back and forth. And I do this all while I'm skating off the ice. So go there. Go see the trainer. We got gauze all over the place. He's like, well, you're going to have to go to the dentist. I'm like, well, yeah, I don't think we're saving these things. Yeah. But so we're sitting there and obviously it's juniors. So like there's only one athletic guy, so we got to wait for the rest of the team to get off the ice. And I remember my coach coming in like, "Where'd you go? Like, how come you left and didn't say anything?" And I had this gauze, and I took my gauze. I'm like, "This is why my teeth are all mangled. There's blood everywhere." So yeah, so I went to the dentist chair for about 3.5 hours. They broke them off, shaved them down, gave me some freezing, and I was so mad. I'm like, I just want to play now. So took some Tylenol or whatever. I couldn't eat anything because it hurt too much. So I think I had like a strawberry smoothie from like Starbucks or something, and then played that night. And then it was about 2 more trips to the dentist to get these things shaved down and taken out and everything, root canals, before I finally got to get my flipper in. So it was a tough 2-week period.
Is the flipper something that you're gonna keep for life, or is it like once the playing career ends, you go?
Once I'm done, I think I'll get implants, or I don't even know what I need to do. That's something I can worry about later.
Yeah.
We're busy people in the season.
No, I know. I
Yeah.
think a lot of guys are like that. Like, I'll just wait till I'm done playing to get it all fixed. There's no sense in
Well,
rushing
why
to
would
do
you
it
do
now
it
because
now? Yeah, what if you lose
God
him
forbid
again?
they puck jumps back up and gets you again.
I played with a guy and he was missing one tooth, and he had a post put in. He was going to get a post put in, and he had it done. And I mean, it cost a lot of money to do this, and it was like the next season he got a puck in the same spot, and not only broke the post, but it like mangled his jaw in there. So they couldn't even redo it. They had to do something else. So I'm like, I don't even want to deal with that. I'm just gonna leave it as is, and when I'm done, I'll figure it out.
You've been, per usual, no surprise, gracious with your time, Joe. Before we let you go, I had to talk about it because it was one thing that was talked about in the room a lot this year was the living situation you had with Adam Beckman. It was such a funny tandem, I think, at the beginning of the year, and so many guys said, boy, I'd kill to just be a fly on the wall when you guys are sitting there doing whatever it was you were doing, because both of your personalities are just, you're fascinating guys, both of you, in very different ways. And so I can you tell us about how that kind of came about? And then is there a funniest story or kind of a strangest story that maybe you guys had together this year, rooming together? Because I'm sure there was a lot of good that came from it too, but there had to be some funny moments between the two of you guys because you're both just hilarious guys.
Yeah, well, I don't know how it really came together. It was like the first day I walked in. So I went to Minnesota's training camp. Like I was like 10, 12 days early last year, a little bit earlier than I normally would. Just new team, try and get to know the guys, know where I'm going, and kind of figure out the lay of the land and meet everyone. But like, he was like one of the first guys I met because he was there doing the prospect game or whatever, the prospect tournament. And he was like all like, you know how he is, all gung ho and happy and giddish and everything. And I walked out there, I'm like, this guy's been around a while. Like, how do I not know his name? Like, was he out east or something? So I started asking guys, and I well, he's a rookie. He played like 9 games. He's in junior last year. I'm like, well, good on him for being a rookie, like rookie per se, and being like that. But I just started hanging out with him, and went to baseball games with him and a couple other guys during training camp, and then he was up there and kind of talked almost every day. Like, well, I was obviously an older guy, had been through it, so if he needed to ask questions or wanted to know things, I feel like he leaned on me quite a bit during training camp and just learning the ropes that way. And then he got sent down, and we were both kind of looking for housing and similar interests. Like we both wanted to be downtown and everything. And I thought, I could probably help a younger guy out and maybe teach him the ropes. So it just kind of happened that way. Stories. I mean, when we got home, it was like quiet. It's like we used all our energy up at the rink. It was like we had to decompress a little bit. But yeah, I would get him going at the rink, and he'd get mad, wouldn't talk to me for a day or two at home, which was funny. And but we always got over it. I mean, we lived together, we drove to the rink together, we kind of were inseparable, in that terms. Like whenever we were leaving, like it was like, well, let's go do this together. Let's do that together. So now in that case, it worked really well. But yeah, like I think it's with anything. If you're living together and you're gonna kind of get pissed off at each other, for fact, lack of a better term. But no, it was awesome. You know, who knows what happens this year? If he wants to go out on his own, that's fine. If not, you know, maybe I want to go out on my own too. But no, it was a great dynamic there, and you know, I was happy. You know, whatever it comes out, maybe I got to teach him a couple things about living on his own. And when you turn pro, I think that's the hardest thing to do, is kind of get all those ducks in a row per se, and figure out how to live on your own, and cook, and how to set this up, and how to make sure that you have enough stuff in your apartment to survive the first night. So hopefully I taught him something, you know, one of those things along the way. And you know, I had a great year with him.
I usually don't reveal my sources when I try to draw stories out of people, but this was a pretty obvious one because the only person who would know this would be Adam Beckman. So he gave me a few nice tidbits that I wanted to ask you about. First and foremost, apparently you have a ridiculous amount of, quote, useless kitchen utensils.
Oh my.
Is that true or false?
Well, they're not useless. We used every one. But I'm unpacking, and he's like, well, what's this? What's this? And like, I got an Instapot. Well, he's like, well, what do we need this for? I said, when I make ribs, you'll know. So there's my secret to ribs. For everyone, that Marquise, I know he's in the background. There's the key there, Marquise. Instapot. I got a food processor for my mom for Christmas one year. Not that I used it that much, but I think we used it once or twice. Like a Keurig, like nightstand, toasters. I got a lot of stuff, but
It's not
it's all
useless
has
stuff. It's just
yeah.
stuff that
No.
somebody who's like just breaking in. I feel like someone
Just
who's a
playing
young
pro,
kid just
yeah.
becoming on their
Yeah.
own wouldn't normally have.
Yeah, like I'm like, it's not useless. Like everything's got its purpose. Like I got 100 different cooking utensils. Well, you need them, because if you're making, you know, pastas and sauces and stuff, you need like 2 or 3 serving spoons. So it's just something like that. And I think he learned, like, one of the first couple of days, he was like, what, how come you have all this? I'm like, just wait and see. I'm trying to think. That's about all the useless stuff I have. I think that's about it.
Well, you heard it here first. Not useless.
Not
Not
useless.
useless. Well, maybe we'll
Yes.
see. Would get Bex on here at some point to retort about potentially the uselessness.
I wonder
of
what
all
he
this
would call the
information.
most useless
Yeah, I'd be curious.
utensil or appliance that he saw. What if you said you have one, like you've got this one piece of equipment that you just never use? What is it?
Or rarely used, because you said you used them all. So, like, what's the most
Yeah.
rarely used utensil?
That food processor probably, or yeah, that's about it. But although, so useless stuff, Adam brought a magic bullet. It didn't leave the box all year. So if there's useless kitchen stuff, you can talk to him, because that thing did not leave the box all year. And he packed it in his car on his way home. I said, if we're living together, don't even bring that back.
How about
I don't know if I didn't say that, but
how about the first couch or TV stand at your guys' apartment? I heard there's a story behind that.
well, the TV stand sucked. We should have burned it in my charcoal grill. It was too small, but you know what? It worked. It was like 2 guys living there, and we're on the road half the time anyways. It held the TV and held my books and whatever else I had under there. So it worked. The couch, a little small. I wanted to just go to, well, I forget the homemakers or whatever out there. And I was like, just let's go in there. We're just going to pick one off the lot, throw it in the back of the truck, and let's go. And he was like, like, I want this color, that color, this. So we like asked, I'm like, can I have this one? They're like, well, we got to order it. I'm like, well, can't we just put it in the back of the truck? It's sitting right here. Well, no, because, you know, it's like the demo. I'm like, well, perfect. It's already set up. It's like, just throw it back in the truck. Well, we'd have to order. I'm like, okay, when's it coming? April. I'm like, that is not going to work. So then, like, we'd see some, and then we'd go back like a day or 2 later, and it would be gone. Like one of the floor models that we could have taken. And so then we looked online, and now I had like this little toolkit like to put stuff together, and it's got a little tape measure, and we're online going, well, this one's this size, and it's like we're like sitting there with a tape measure going, well, maybe that'll work. And so at the end of the day, and we moved in in like 4 days at this point. We moved in like in 4 days at this point, and we're looking, it's like, well, if we get expedited shipping, it's here in 5 or 6 days. So I'm like, just get it at this point, like just get it. Okay, so we buy it. I think the first day we had like my air mattress set up against the wall, like just sitting on it, because like there's nothing else. Like we had nothing in there to start. We had all my useless kitchen utensils that we couldn't use to relax on the couch type thing.
Two guys on
So the couch
can make a great meal, just can't sit anywhere to enjoy it.
Just can't sit anywhere. So, I mean, we did that. And then we got the couch and we put it together. I'm like, well, it's kind of small, like whatever, but whatever. So then we had to go buy this one of them Papasan chairs or whatever. So we had that too, which was nice, but it needed some work. I don't know. It was creaky and everything. I don't know. But Adam found a bigger couch on Marketplace or Craigslist or something. So we went and got that. We sold the other couch and got a new couch that was bigger and more comfortable. It was more comfortable.
Things were a little too
but
tight.
It was massive.
Things were a little too tight with the first one.
Massive. Yeah, it was.
Then you went too big. You went from too small to too big.
Well, I don't think it's too big. I think that's gonna be the smallest living room you'll find in an apartment. So it's probably the right size. It looked a little crammed in there. Well, guys would come over and say we were a furniture store because we had side tables and coffee tables and chairs and a dining room table and chairs that were like stuffed in the corner because the couch was too big. And yeah, we had one guy called us the furniture store. But hey, we got it all out.
That's what we may have to send Marquise this year. If you guys do live together, you guys move back in. We just may have to have him
moving day with moving day with Joe and Adam.
Yeah.
That could be a nice
Moving day. Yeah.
Joey, anything else from you? I only got one final question for Joe that I want to get to.
I'll let you wrap it up.
The last thing we had to get to, the Canadian tuxedo this season, I think, really took on a life of its own, not only within the room, but the picture that I think you guys were on top of from the marketing side and the Twitter side that blew out that people loved. You're a cowboy at heart, aren't you?
I like to say I am, yes. I've been to 2 rodeos this year, so I think I'm a cowboy.
You went or you were in the rodeo?
No, I went.
Okay, I thought you said
went.
I was like, oh, I was like, hold on, stop the presents.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
No, it looks fun, but as I think of myself as a cowboy, I don't know if I actually have it in me, but no, my aunts and uncles, like we all have horses. They're up on ranches and stuff, so like I've ridden horses and stuff before. So this Canadian tuxedo idea was when I heard that we were going to do it, I was like the first in line at horse or whatever's just down the street, that Western wear store down the street. Boot Barn. Yeah, Boot Barn. I think I was the first in line there looking for jean jackets. I'm like, I have the boots, I have the jeans, need a jean jacket. And then I was in there, I'm like, well, I should probably get a cowboy hat too. So I got a cowboy hat too, and just kind of took off with it from there. And I had the bolo tie that I wore. So it was one of those things that we had a lot of fun with it. And we won the first couple of games, so that was nice. Although we wore them to Colorado, and that didn't turn out too well. But
good games though, good games in Colorado. But yeah, you're right, the wrong result.
Yeah, wrong result. Like we played well enough to win them, and I don't think we got a point out of that series. So it was tough. But I love the Canadian tuxedo idea. I thought that was the best. We should be wearing that every game, I think.
Maybe you can get an exemption from Tim this year,
where
the real cowboy can wear the Canadian tux anytime he wants.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So anyways, back to the rodeo. So I went to it's May Ball. It's called. It's in the small town Clinton, BC, and I'd never been in. My family's from there, so all the cousins in there and aunts and uncles and everything. So we go there. I'm like, I'm going to May Ball this year. So I go to the rodeo, and I'm thinking it's like going to be like the Calgary Stampede, which I went to a couple weeks ago. But I go there and like, I'm like looking at these guys and being an athlete and kind of, I'm like, I could do that. And then And then you get down and you see the size of the horses and everything. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing that anytime soon. But yeah, I went to 2 rodeos, had a blast. I think those things. I mean, they're great. The people like the bull riders and the saddle bronc and the bareback riders, they're a little nuts. I think they're crazier than I am.
That's saying something.
And that's saying a lot. But no, hats off to those guys who get on those, and not only at the rodeos, but those cowboys doing that every day, and they're ranch and farm, and obviously taking care of the cows that make our steaks at some point probably, and they take care of us. So hats off to them, thanks to them, and very entertaining though. I can't wait to go back to another rodeo at some point.
What would you name your horse if you had to name a horse something? Have you ever thought of a name for your horse, your trusty steed?
No, I don't know what I'd name the horse.
Gotta take some time to think about that.
Yeah,
That's
not
Well, they all got funny names. Like, so I went to the Stampede. I was there the first weekend. So then I was watching the rest of the rodeo every day, and like seeing some of the names, I'm like, who names a horse that? Like, there's like three-word names, and I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. But I don't know what I'd name my horse.
It's like when people have like the racing horses. They're always obscure names. Like, I don't know.
Go like Gus or something. Something.
Yeah.
Like something simple.
I don't know if I name my horse Gus, but okay.
I'm sticking by Gus.
All right.
Gus, you're Gus, hey? Yeah, I don't know. Something fast or mean, or I don't know. I don't know what I'd name it. I'd have to do some research on that one.
Okay, we'll get back to you on that. Joe,
Yeah.
This has been just fabulous, buddy. Always is. Knew when we had you on the calendar this was going to be fun. Did we miss anything? Is there anything you came on that you're like, I want these guys to ask about this?
I don't know. I mean, I've been fishing a couple times. Nothing really spectacular. I guess I went Chronomeds fishing, but you guys probably have no idea what that is.
I've never heard of that.
So it's fishing for trout, rainbow trout in BC. It's more of a science. Like once you figure out where the fish are, fishing this way is it's like a hack. Like you get a fish every 5 minutes, not even like every 2 minutes. But you got to find the fish first. So you find this fish, and then you have these. They make these little stomach pumps or whatever. So you stick it down the fish's throat when you release them, and you can see what they're eating. And they're called chronomeds, and they're these little bugs that they I guess their eggs are on the bottom of the lake, and when they're about to hatch, they float up, get to the top, and then they hatch and fly away. Well, the fish love these things in the BC interior. So we call it match the hatch. So basically you catch a fish, you find out what the hatch is, and then you have 100 different hooks of different colors, combination sizes, and you try and match it to one that's going. So you find out the depth, you find the fish, you use like surgical scissors that like pliers that have clamps on them, and you attach it to the hook, you drop it to the bottom, you put a bobber on like 8 to 18 inches off the bottom, and then when you find the fish, they hit. But because it's so far down, like sometimes it's 18, 20 feet, sometimes before the bobber goes down, the fish will be jumping like in the air and you don't see it, and it's like, oh, look at that fish jumping, and you see your bobber going, the rod's going off, and then it's like all on chaos. Because I mean, fly lines, it's a form of fly fishing at the end of the day, but their drags aren't really set that great. So sometimes if the fish is running, it'll spool up on you, and then you guys got a rat's nest. Or you can't reel it in because it's too small, so you're hand bombing it, and then if it gets tangled in your feet and the fish goes to run, like it'll just wrap around your ankles, and it creates just chaos. But it's the funnest fishing you'll ever do when you're catching fish. It is boring because you don't know what you're doing if you don't catch any fish. And that was the first hour of the day. But we got the fish. We caught like 18 fish in a couple hours. It was fun.
What do you think, marketing director? Gone fishing with Joe Hicketts, a monthly fishing
Yeah, we
story
gotta find
segment?
we gotta
there's
find
gotta
a
be
way to get
implement
out on a
something,
boat,
yeah.
do this, just tell stories, overfishing, a
gotta
couple
be a way
afternoons
to
throughout
do
the year.
Set some ice fishing up. I heard ice fishing is great during the winter there.
I mean,
do that.
considering the months they're here, there's really about 2 of them.
Have you been
could
fishing out
maybe
here at
get
all
in a
since
boat.
you
No,
last year?
never. I haven't. No, we looked during our pseudo all-star break, but we couldn't go, so we couldn't figure out a spot.
Looks like we got
But I'd
something to
love
put
to
on
go
our list
fishing.
of things to do this summer. Then
like
look
it.
into that.
I like it.
Yeah.
Joe, thanks again, pal. Can't thank you enough. Enjoy the rest of your time on the water. Know you got to get to a workout here this morning, so we've kept you long enough. Best of luck in the gym, on the water, and can't wait to see you back with the Wild organization again this season.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Ben. Great talk to you, and I like your attire today.
That's it for period 2. On to period 3, and a big thanks to Joe Hicketts, Wild defenseman, and just all-around terrific human for sitting down with us and giving just about an hour there to Joey and I, and could have given more. I think we will give him more. You know, we obviously this summer we're looking more at people that maybe are outside of the organization now, but were at one point within the organization. It's easier to get these people when the seasons aren't going on, whether they're working in hockey now or whether our season's going on. But the low-hanging fruit are guys like Hicketts, Murmis, because they'll be here during the season.
Yep.
So those are both guys we think we'll probably have back on at some point when we hopefully keep this going throughout the season. But just a fantastic chat with Joe. I laughed. I smiled a lot, which is normally the case with Joe. I didn't get to ask him, and I had it written down. We didn't get to it, but I wanted to ask him time he was most frustrated with the team services guy, though he did bring up the Fargo trip.
The Fargo trip, yeah.
I can say we are not busing to Winnipeg this year. It is a little convoluted how we're getting there, but it's not a full bus ride from Des Moines to Winnipeg. So we're looking forward to that for sure. But just great stuff from Joe. No surprise. And I really loved getting into Adam Beckman because right away he and Beckman were two guys that, and I think the team thought the same thing. Not that you look at them, they're completely juxtapositioned personalities, but you're still just like, well, you don't know each other. One guy's closing in on 30. One guy's 19. Yes, yes. And they're just and they were fast friends. And very true what he said about there was a couple times where he'd go after him in the room, obviously in good spirits. And as a young player, you're maybe not used to that yet. And Adam Beckman has been, he's been the bee's knees of everywhere he's been. So all of a sudden, and not that he didn't have a good year last year, but all of a sudden, I'm sure if guys gave him grief when he was playing for Spokane, he said, buddy, like I was the Bob Clark Trophy winner. I scored more goals than you in one game than you did all season. I'm sure you could use that line. You can't use that anymore. Yeah. And so Hicketts would go after him, and I can vouch for that. There were some days where Hicks is like, he hasn't talked to me like all day. Like, I don't know. Like, is he really mad at me? I was just kind of joking around. So a fun relationship there. The fishing stories were great. I do think we should try to do something with him, maybe in a boat or something. He talked about ice fishing. Yeah. There's a way to do that, I think. And between the creativity that you have and the rest of your group does, there's a way to make that happen, I think. So, yeah, great stuff from Joe. No surprise.
Yeah. Like you said, I was going to get into the Beckman stuff too, but just that's a unique relationship. Hearing about their furniture troubles, the kitchen utensils, which when you had told me you were going to ask about that, and you said, yeah, Beckman said he's just got a lot of useless stuff. We were looking into finding out what it was, but as Joe starts rattling it off, like those are just things that just like an adult has in their kitchen, and not that Bex isn't an adult, but maybe his first time really living on his own
21
pro life. Yeah. So like he's probably approaching things like you would if you were in college living in your own apartment for the first time.
Jack's
very
pizza,
bare bones. Nothing
ramen.
crazy.
You can make all your things nice and simple.
Now they got a big couch, they got end tables, a dining room set, like they got all these things. If they had stayed on the air mattress, that's probably what I would have expected. If it was just Bex on his own. Line, yeah. So that's I don't know. He loved your outfit, which I do want to say now that we're on the back half of the episode, I think you got a little lucky with the hockey equipment because we were able to lump. Usually we do this over a couple days. We lumped our intro, our outro, everything was all in one day. So you did dodge a bullet there. Can we show the camera the palms of your gloves because those have seen better days. For sure,
Marquise zoom in on the gloves.
I mean, I know you're not playing a ton anymore, but at what point do you just say, hey, maybe I either get new gloves or maybe just get them repalmed? When do you make that decision?
I've thought about getting them repalmed. I have thought about that. The one thing
you get a better feel for the stick without the grip.
Not with my hands. It doesn't matter. It's I'm chopping the puck into a square no matter what these palms are good or not. But hey, they worked at floor hockey the other day.
They did work.
In floor hockey. Yep.
Floor hockey's been a lot of fun. It's only 1 week in, and we don't need to dive in too
No,
much into floor hockey.
Most of that's going to be a little internal, I think. We got to keep some stuff internal.
Yeah, but we got, over the summer, there's more downtime, more availability on rooms in the building, so we're doing staff floor hockey with anybody who wants to play. I think we got about half the staff who wanted to play, so split everybody up into teams, and we had our first game last week. It was a fun one. We got another game this Thursday.
Circled on my calendar.
Comes with full recap after the game. We sent out a press release internally to the staff. It's a lot of fun.
I will say Noah Petrarca, I mean, he embodied spiritually Dominic Hasek.
Yeah, that's all I could think of.
Literally,
the way he came out
looked like Dominic Hasek.
Coming out for poke checks, coming out like halfway up the ice, and
he got caught out of the net one time and then had to sprawl
leg
back.
Saves, it was unbelievable. I know he's already talked about maybe I don't want to play goalie the next week, but I don't know. He's on our team. I kind of want him to keep playing goalie.
I mean, he's a good player though too. Like he'll be someone that contributes no matter where you slot him in. He's utility infielder. I think you could put him anywhere. Clearly now you could put him anywhere you want, and he'll add to your team. Again, happy with my draft pick there. Yeah, very, very happy with my draft pick. Yeah, very, very good. To finish, do want to we talked on the first period. 'Tis the season to lock yourself up in
Wedding
marriage.
Season.
Yeah, it is. We've had Richard Shaky Krause. We talked about the new strength coach Andrew Kaiser getting married. Definitely want to give a big congratulations, Allie Brown, our vice president of business operations, who I always say this to her because I mean it, and it's bosses stand behind and point. Leaders get out in front, and they show you how to do things. They're with you there on the front lines. She is that to a T. She really is the one who beats the drum around here and keeps us moving in the right direction and leads from the front. So, congratulations to Allie. And let's see, this episode won't be out before she's married.
This will be out before.
And her still fiance, Chris, and they're in pending nuptials. So congratulations to them. And you can't say enough good things about Allie Brown. And I know she's been someone for you that you obviously deal with her a lot, seeing as you took over her role from the head of marketing. And similarly, I'm someone that deals with her a lot and is a great resource and a valuable resource for us as we continue to grow in our Iowa Wild tenure, because I mean there's no one that's been here longer than her, with the exception of Lisa Rothlein, but that's because she predates into Houston.
Yeah.
But as far as the Iowa Wild goes, it's Allie Brown, and she has done so much for this organization. So a big congratulations to her and her future husband, Chris.
Yeah, like you said, she leads the charge for us here. So she's the one that everybody turns to if they need things, need answers, how have things been done in the past. She's been here through it all. So and obviously, being a woman in sports, being in her position is a huge deal as well. So very happy for Allie. Wish them nothing but a lifetime of success and happiness, and we'll look forward to seeing her in a couple weeks when they get back from their honeymoon.
And we'll try not to bother her while she's gone.
We'll try.
I already had to bug her last week, and I know it's not like her honeymoon yet, but I was texting you Friday. I'm like, I'm that guy texting Allie. She's out. I needed something.
It can be tough though. I mean, when you're the one running point, and a lot of approvals got to run through you.
Well, and she knows that, right? I mean, that's nice, but still, I'm sitting there. I'm like, you don't want to be that person.
As long as
3 o'clock on a Friday.
I
think she was in Michigan, so it's 4 o'clock her time.
Yeah, just don't do it on wedding day. That's the one thing. don't do it that day.
Well, it's funny. I wasn't sure when the wedding date was, and I was after I texted her, and I was like, "Is the wedding tomorrow?" I was like, I had a complete panic. I was like, "Oh my gosh! What have I done?"
Yeah.
And then no, it's not. So I'm like, okay, we're good. We're good.
Yeah.
We're good. Anything else, Joey? What have we missed? What haven't we covered? Any fun notes from you to finish, or otherwise we can wrap it up by saying we don't promise guests anymore, but next week's guest is a really good one. It's a really good one. We'll say that much.
Yeah. Again, we don't want to promise.
We always
guests
say they're good, but
as long as we can get.
It's the most excited, with all the respect to all the rest of our guests, it is the most excited I've been for a guest so far this season.
Yeah. I think this is going to be one that people will want to tune in for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Not that they haven't, like you said, they haven't before.
No.
But this will be a fun conversation to have. Maybe I don't know what direction it's gonna take us. I feel like we could do more storytelling. We could get more into the nitty gritty. I think either way, it's gonna be fascinating for people to listen to.
That's our job, right? It's going to be our job to take it in the right direction.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll put both hands on the bus and we'll see, or on the steering wheel, and we'll see where the bus goes.
That's right.
Well, Joey, thank you. A big thank you to Marquise as well. Also to Jeremy Korn, Executive Podcast Solutions, for making this listenership possible. And a big thank you to Juan Soto as well for making me wear this hockey gear.
Make sure you go like, subscribe, listen, all that fun stuff.
Throw these
Podcast
gloves
isn't
off
over
now.
yet, so this maybe you kind of just broke it. Maybe we got to do another week. I don't know. You let us know what you think out there, people. Should Ben have to do this again because he just forfeited the bet early? What do we think? Yes,
I
no.
wanted to
You let
thumbs
us
down.
know. Either way, 2 Hawks for the win.
Yes.
Let's wrap it up.
This has been episode 6 of Ridin the Bus, presented by Explore Minnesota. Thanks for hopping on board. As always, 2 honks for the win, and thanks for listening.